Hello, my name is Cynthia Ng. You are tuning in to AWANI Review. On this episode, joining me today is the CEO and founder of Hiredly, Derek Toh. Hiredly is a job search platform that specializes in creating engaging experiences for talent to find the right employer. Am I right or am I wrong, Derek?
Yes, you're right,
Okay.
Cynthia.
Started in 2014, and the focus at that time was really to engage in young talent. Talk to us about that journey, and why did you start the platform in a time where there's just so many established players in the market already?
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Cynthia. So me personally, I actually went through different phases of my own career. So when I was really young, this was about when I was 11 years old. In the early 1990s, I actually studied computer programming voluntarily, right? This was before the internet days. So it's a very strange time to be able to get into that. And then after that, I became an accountant in my 20s, and then I moved to recruitment/HR. So you could say that I have been somewhat confused in the early stages of my career, but I'm also one of the lucky people that managed to switch careers as I grew, right? And when I was actually doing recruitment, what I found was I had a lot of, I meet a lot of young talent, right? And I find that many people were kind of unhappy where they are. And they're sort of like working in the wrong place or the wrong company. So they're perfectly good. I can have like two perfectly good people, let's say their background somewhat similar. One is very engaged and the other one is not. And I realized because they're in the wrong place. And the reason why they're in the wrong place is if you look at how a lot of the major job platforms are built, right?
Yep.
They're basically matching a CV, which is a text-based document, to a job description, which is a text-based document. But people are much more complicated than that, right? Like they're more than just their CV, for example, and a company is more than just their job description.
Correct.
So if you're matching a CV and a job description, what are the odds that you're going to match correctly?
Yeah.
It's very low. So, and I think because most people start their job search in this way, they end up in the wrong place. And when we first started, we said, hey, look, we want to change that. We want to be very different where people can make much more informed decisions. Definitely, people are actually much more than just their CVs, right? And companies are much more than just a job description. So if I talk about how ideally someone should actually look for a job. So say I'm an accountant. There are probably, say, 10,000 jobs out there in the market right now that I could apply to, but I can only work in one. So how do I figure out what's the one place that I should be working in? Then so there should be a lot more insight into what kind of company am I applying to? Like who works there, what kind of leadership do they have, the kind of culture that they have. So if you go into Hiredly as a platform or on the online job portal, if you like, you will see that it's very media rich. It's full of video, photos to help companies tell this story, offer this kind of transparency so that the job seeker can make much more informed decisions before they apply, rather than just applying to a text-based job description, which is sort of like a blind application, if you know what I mean. Like you don't know what they're actually applying to until they go for an interview. So that's how the online portal works. But what's truly unique about how we're evolving right now is we take like an online to offline approach, or like O2O, where someone can come on to online portal, they sign up, and then we also direct them to our offline kind of services. So as an example, we have a headhunting arm. So if someone, say they're very busy, they can't really actively apply to jobs, we also have like consultants of the headhunting team, which we call Hiredly X, who might then call them, ask them, hey, what are you looking for? Maybe I can bring the right job to you rather than you actively applying. And we also have a lot of offline career events where, we've had events where we actually brought people to like employers' offices before on tours. We've even had like career fairs, which we want much more networking stuff. So rather than the typical career fair where you just walk to a stall, right? They actually kind of mingle.
So headhunting is typically more for senior talents, but at Hiredly, I understand that a junior to mid-level talent can also can now get headhunted.
Yes, that's sort of our vision for the headhunting team, because I always find that junior people, none of the headhunters really want to talk to them because their fees are based on the salary of the talent that they place. So they tend to focus on senior people. And junior people, I would argue, is at the time of their career where they need the most help.
Yeah, they do, but then you need more resources because there's a larger pool of junior to mid-level talent, right?
That's right. And I think the way traditional headhunters work, because it's very manual, it doesn't make business sense to focus on junior because it's very slow for them. But because we're a technology company, we use a lot of data and AI to make our process a lot more efficient, so we can serve the junior market much better.
All right, speak to us about technology. How big of a role does AI play in recruiting and hiring process? I think what I want to get at is how granular can you get in terms of data and in terms of matching people to the right places?
Yeah, so the thing about AI is you will hear in the market there are a lot of people who are doing AI,
Yeah.
right? But the main difference between, say, Hiredly and what other people do is because we started as an online job portal. So we have this massive pool of data, if you like, of people actually looking for jobs, what they're applying to and what kind of interviews they're having with the employers. That helps funnel, drive the recruitment business, the headhunting business. Whereas a lot of people don't have access to this kind of data, right? And you can imagine sort of, say for example, if I am a traditional headhunter, if I wanted to interview one person, right, it might take me 10, 15 minutes for a phone interview. So in an hour, maybe I'll interview 5 people, right, in one person. But we have a chatbot on the job portal that's interviewing people all the time. They probably interview 1,000 people in an hour. So you can imagine the rate of the us gathering data is so different from what a traditional headhunter is doing. And all this interview data is then funneled to the agency, right, which are headhunting business, through using our AI, which we call Ashley now. And it drives so much efficiency advantages compared to a normal headhunting business.
All right. So you started in 2014, and now you've grown to with over 750,000 job seekers and about 17,000 employers sign up. Talk to us about the demographic and who do you have on your platform in terms of employees and employers.
Yeah, so we, because we've always tried to serve the junior market very well, when we first started, the junior market was Gen Y, right, predominantly Gen Y. Today, if you just graduated, you're Gen Z. Yeah, so that is the demographic that we serve, Gen Y and Gen Z, which is like the junior to mid-level market. We do focus a little bit more on degree holders. That means someone that's going for a professional job, right, and is going to be working in the office. And therefore, that's why we're also very active at like university level and all that, right? So that is where we are focused on.
And you recently conducted a rebranding. I mentioned you started with younger talent, more fresh, energetic look and feel, and now you've kind of graduated to become more sophisticated. Talk to us about that journey and how is it reflected into your business strategy?
Yeah, so in the early years, because we're very much focused on culture, what we found was there was a lot of employers and talent that loved using us, right? And predominantly these were many startups that actually like us because startups hire using culture. It was one of the advantages that they had as a startup when they couldn't compete with a big brand, right? Because they were young and small and maybe under-resourced. So we focused on culture. And I guess we grew to a stage where we realized that if we wanted to make a bigger impact and help more people, just focusing on startups and culture was a little bit too small of a market. So we wanted a little bit more of a mature brand that still represented the kind of innovative culture that we have as a technology company. So that's kind of what made us rebrand into Hiredly.
And would you say that now, I mean, your clients, are they progressively more like bigger companies, less startups, or what is your focus at this point in time?
We still have startup clients, but the mix is a lot less. So there is a much bigger portion of big corporations that are using us now. So in the early years, because we built a lot of our database, so you can imagine the type of talent that wants to work in a startup, many of them are actually very talented people, high quality, they're very entrepreneurial. They don't want to work in like maybe a conventional company. They want to work in somewhere different. And Malaysia or the world did go through a phase where the startup scene was the place to go, right? So we have this very big pool, this database here. And now the big corporations say, hey, you know what, we want to hire them too. So a lot of them are actually coming to us to hire right now. And therefore, it's a much larger pool of corporations using us.
And I believe you started off as a mobile platform, did you?
We've always focused on mobile, so even
Okay.
until today, we sort of a mobile first kind of mentality.
So I did ask around some of my friends. I was like, "Oh, have you heard of Hiredly?" And they said like, "Oh, it's like Tinder for job search."
Right.
So I think it's very interesting because you want to hire younger talent, especially younger ones. It's culture is very important, and just that process of searching for a job, it has to resonate with that talent. So I do want to talk about trends in the workplace and the future of recruitment. You mentioned Gen Z, Gen Z, Gen Y. Talk to us about some of the differences that you're seeing, in terms of what they want in a workplace, especially post-pandemic, and there's so much talk about hybrid working, remote working, and resistance of coming back to the office, for instance. What are you observing in the market?
So yeah, one thing we find quite interesting is we did a survey recently in Hiredly, so we call it the Work Culture Report, right, for 2022. And we found that even the people who were fully remote right now, 100% working remote, the vast majority of them, I believe the number is 69% or something like that, actually prefer hybrid. So it sort of signals that people do want to go to the office, right? They do want to see their colleagues in person. But most people prefer hybrid rather than physically 100% coming into offices because I guess it's nice to have an option.
Yeah.
Like I want to come in when it makes sense to collaborate, or if sometimes I'm just doing work by myself, I want the convenience of working in a cafe or in my home, right? So, and that seems to be the direction that most people want, like hybrid. Like they want to feel empowered as to where they can work, and because during the COVID, like 2020, 2021, many companies have shown that they can make it work, right? Remote working. So that's what people want. The difference between Gen Y and Gen Z is a bit more interesting. I think I wouldn't look at it in terms of the generation that they're in, maybe more like the stage of life that they're in. Mm-hmm. So most people, if they just graduated, for example, I think when they're early in their career, they actually want to come in to see their colleagues are like their friends. Like that social connection is very important for someone that's at the start of their career. They want to go into the company that they're working in and see their colleagues and feel like they belong. And it's a big part of their growth as a career rather than just being stuck in their room. They're maybe living with their parents, right? So a lot of them want to get out. But if you're talking about someone, let's say, a bit more mature, if they have a family and all that, right, then the trend seems to be like, I wish I could have the option to work remotely if I have to. So I think it depends on the stage of life that they're actually in.
So as an employer then, is there a need to relook at work policies in terms of catering to different groups of people? And are you seeing that employees are taking this kind of observations on board because these are crucial points to retaining talent?
Yes, it's an important tool. From our survey also we noticed that 51% of the respondents say that their employer is saying that you have to come in. There's no remote working anymore, right? Like you're sort of forcing everyone to come in. And I think the way I look at it is, I guess it depends on the context of the business. Yeah. So if you're in, say, manufacturing, for example, where you're physically building something, I think it makes sense that it might be difficult to work remotely, that you have to be there. But there are companies who are, let's say, technology companies where they do a lot of software development. And even before COVID, technology companies have been known to have like fully remote teams. They can make it work. So those companies can probably use this to their advantage as a tool to attract and retain talent, right? But again, it doesn't work for everyone.
We're recording this as we speak. I mean, the guys behind the camera, the cameramen, of course, they can't be working from home.
That's
but
right.
I think we can talk about some things like besides the option of flexibility, what are some of the company traits that talent value?
Yeah, so there are some that every year when we do the survey is always at the top, and this has to do with career growth. Everyone wants to grow in their career. And this seems fairly obvious, right? Like people do actually want to grow. And social connection tends to follow quite closely to that, right? That means they want to feel like they belong to the company they're in socially, like they like their colleagues, or at least you don't hate them, right? They get along with their leaders and all that. Another trait that is very close to the top 3 frequently, sometimes it's number 4, is this idea of having a very progressive culture. That means that they want to work in a company that values their opinion, where there's flexibility, the way the company treats their people is kind of very modern, if you like, not like a very old school kind of way. So these are various things that a company can sort of use to attract talent.
When I speak to employers, there seem to be a difficulty in keeping younger talents. What are your thoughts about that? And do you face the same challenges with leading a very, very young team that you have here at Hiredly?
Yeah, it's interesting. In fact, I would say sometimes, many, many years ago, and I suppose this idea seems to, until today, it's still kind of there. The idea that, Gen Y, Gen Z, like they're not loyal, they like to change jobs and all that, right? I would sort of submit to everyone that there are few reasons for this, right? It's not that people are not loyal. The first is, it's a lot easier to look for a job today.
Yeah.
That's one reason, right? Not just that there are more jobs in the market, but the tools to look for a job are so different. When I graduated, I'm going to come across as very old now, but I literally have to print my CV on like a piece of paper, like print 100 CVs and mail it to employers.
I think we're probably the same generation.
Are we? Okay, all right, okay. I don't feel so lonely now.
Well, I recall doing that, so yes.
Yeah, so you have to mail and then you kind of hope you get a phone call, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of hard work. And if you wanted to look for a job, you flick through the newspaper, it's incredibly slow and very tedious. Today, let's say if you're using Hiredly or any other platform, like on Hiredly, if you have the app, you can just swipe right and you apply to a job. That's it. And using this phone in your pocket that you have with you all the time, like applying to a job is so easy, right? And the platforms are always recommending the right jobs to you.
Right.
So it's so much easier to find jobs. And therefore you can't sort of, when there are more options out there, naturally people tend to move
around,
right?
Yeah.
So, but this is actually a good thing because if any employer understands how markets work, so they understand, as a business you understand like if your customer doesn't want to buy your product, there's nothing wrong with the customer, something wrong with the product, right? That's how the market works. The customer drives the market. So it's the same for the talent market. So if the talent have more options, it's going to be a vibrant talent market. So people can look for different jobs. And this is where I think a lot of employers maybe I can help everyone kind of look at it a little bit differently, if you like. It's easy to blame the talent for moving jobs, but you have to realize that for a market to work, there are two sides. You need two hands to clap. Who's hiring this person that is moving job? They're not hiring themselves. They're going to another employer. So another employer is hiring this person, and therefore the talent is moving. So while it's easy to say that, hey, why are people changing jobs all the time? You can also flip around and say that it's so much easier for an employer to hire now. And if you're going to stop the talent from moving jobs, are you also going to stop that employer from hiring? No, right? So I think rather than being too obsessed with, why are talent changing jobs all the time? I think what employers can understand is, the market's more vibrant now. There's more competition, which is a good thing. It means that your employees might leave to join another employer, but it's so much easier for you also to hire from another employer yourself. And then having a very clear strategy is even more important. Rather than last time, people don't leave jobs, not necessarily because they wanted to stay in your company, because they don't know how to leave. It was so difficult to leave your company. So having a vibrant market overall is good.
And I think that leads to a better ecosystem as well for the overall, hiring and recruiting. I mean, just talent culture in the company. What would be your advice to employers who may find it difficult to hire and keep talent?
Yeah, so I would say that you need a very holistic approach to a strategy, right? Like it's very easy to just think, it's about pay. I mean, pay is a very important factor. I'm not saying that's not important. But you could look at other things like, like we said, career growth is very important. So have you structured internally some kind of idea and how your talent might grow in the company? Because if they can see a vision for themselves, not just the company, then the tendency for them to stay is much higher, right? Have you also looked at your culture as a company. You know, most companies say they care about culture, but they don't. It's not very deliberate in how they design their culture. In Hiredly, for example, let's say we have core values, and we really try to live by these core values. We use it to drive culture. So more employers ideally should think about that. Okay, if you say you want a good talent strategy, think about your culture. What is it? Like, put it on a piece of paper. What kind of culture do you want to create here? And sort of commit to creating that kind of culture. So there are many tools in place. It's not just about salary and money, which is a slippery slope, if you like, if you just focus on salary. Because if you're just overpaying someone to join you, this person will also leave if someone else pays them a bit more money. So you really want to go beyond that, right, for a long-term talent strategy.
Talk to us about your leadership philosophy. This is, like I said, a fairly young team.
Most of the people in the company right now, I'm not sure what the exact stat is, could be close to 70%, actually joined us as a fresh graduate, or maybe like 1 year experience, or very young, right? And many of them, some even as interns, and many of them grew with the company. Some of them are leading teams today. So as a recruitment company that focuses on young talent, we sort of eat our own dog food, if you like. I mean, internally, we also believe in it. Like, we want the young people to grow. And we've actually got to the stage right now where we're also bringing in some senior people, right, into the company. Because what we find that in order to help a lot of young talent grow, sometimes you also need like a good coach or good leader to direct them there.
Mentorship.
Yes.
How important is mentorship to young talents?
Super important, I think. Because one thing, so there's a balance between mentoring someone and sort of like telling them what to do, right? So I see a mentor or coach as someone that sort of, you empower them to think for themselves. So you teach them how to think, you know, and so that they can make good decisions, right? And then those things are very important versus you just telling them you should do 1 to 10 exactly the way I like to do it, right? So I think mentorship and coaching is important. So if you want to create the kind of culture where young talent thrive, then even when you hire more senior people to support that growth, even the senior people have to sort of live and breathe the values of the company, right? And sort of be trained, if you like, to coach and mentor the team in the right way. I think that's quite important.
All right.
Yeah.
Just one final question about the direction that Hiredly is going. We've got a great, number of people on the platform now, both employers and employees. What's next? Are you planning for expansion, or are you planning to increase your offerings or innovation in the AI that you use? What's next, if you can share with us?
So we are primarily focused on in Malaysia right now. So Klang Valley has been a space that we've been working on for many years. We are looking beyond Klang Valley now. So we're growing our presence in the northern and southern region. But primarily still Malaysia first in terms of market. Beyond this, we could go to Singapore or Philippines or Indonesia next. So we haven't set anything in stone, but we want to win or dominate this space in Malaysia, if you like. The other part is product development. So because we've recently very clear on our O2O, online to offline strategy, we are actually creating the technology and the AI to support this direction. So Ashley, which is our AI, will be designed so that we can, whether a user is using us online or they're coming to some of our offline events or talking to some of our consultants, they're actually sort of present there to support this person, to find the right place for them to work, right? And once this technology becomes more developed and more mature, then I believe we'll be at the right stage where we would go to another country after that. So our focus will still be Malaysia right now.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Derek, for speaking to me and also just discussing some trends in the workplace. You have been tuning in to AWANI Review, and for more information on Hiredly, just head on to their platform or their mobile application, and you can find all the information about talent, recruitment, hiring, as well as some of the things that we talked about culture in the workplace. So you have been tuning into AWANI Review with me, Cynthia Ng. We'll see you again in the next episode.